I will tell the story. This is a bad favorite player interaction, but it's a story that I've always liked. I guess it kind of shows the personalities that I think of the people involved. If you remember early in the 2018 season, the Cardinals signed Greg Holland at the very end of spring training to kind of come be their closer. And that was a situation where the manager had really pushed for it, and there had been some pushback from the front office, but they made it happen. But Holland stayed back. He was in extended spring training, getting himself worked up into game shape as the season started. And the Cardinals broke camp with Dominic Leone as their closer. He'd been acquired to trade for Randall Grichuk that winter, and they broke camp with Leone. And in the first week of the season, I don't remember who they were playing, but the first week of the season, Leone comes in, blows a save. They lose a game at home, early in the year, whatever it was. And we're standing at the locker. You go into the clubhouse. Largely, guys who play the same position are kind of clustered together in spots throughout the locker room, as you might expect. And there's a crowd of us, around Leone's locker, and it's the standard stuff. Didn't locate my pitch, didn't do this, it's what it is. And toward the end of the session, someone asked Leone if it would take some of the pressure off the bullpen once Holland was ready and worked up, and because it was going to be his job, right? And so the question essentially was, once Greg Holland is ready, is that better for everyone? And from behind me, I hear Bud Norris, who ended up leading the team, and says that Uriner was really strong that season. And I hear Bud Norris say, his name is Greg Holland, not Jesus. And I really enjoyed that as a little bit of a chime in. The point I think was, one guy's not going to fix every problem, and also the guy blew a save. It happened. These are things that happen in baseball. But I don't think Bud loved the question, nor maybe the implication that the rest of the bullpen was waiting for someone to come save them and made his feelings known.
I had a question about player interaction. Specifically, like, our podcast is called Newt News because I don't know if you remember, but after the Cardinals clinched the Central, Lars Nootbaar was going around interviewing all the players, and he's quite.
I do. Yeah, I was there. I was in that clubhouse in Milwaukee. I was there for that. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Do you have a specific Lars Nootbaar story? Because I know he's like quite the character. And
again, here's another good one from this camp. Just the other day, after a workout, we had gotten into the clubhouse, and it's the locker stall. It's a locker, right? So at the top there is one little door, a little cubby door that kind of swings over where you can put your valuables or whatever if you were so inclined. And Lars kind of goes to his locker and flips the door open, and then you see him kind of look, and then he jumps back 8 feet, and apparently Lars Nootbaar, not a big fan of the lizards that live in the bushes down here. They're like little animal lizards that crawl all over the ground down here. And apparently Miles Michaelis had found one and snatched it up and had left it in the locker for Lars to find. And so he came back from the workout, flipped open the door to the locker, and there was a lizard staring at him, running around the little wooden box inside of his locker. So he, for all of the excitement around it, and he actually, it's been a lot of fun watching him interact with a lot of, there's been a lot of Japanese media in camp getting content from him for the World Baseball Classic. There were some Korean reporters earlier in camp doing the same thing for Tommy Edman. For as busy as he's been doing that, it was fun to watch Miles kind of check him a little bit with just, little bitty lizard that he left to run around inside the locker.
The Lizard King returns. He makes another appearance.
He knows where to, and you know what? Part of that is, I'm sure, growing up living in Florida for his entire life, he's more than familiar with all the crawling stuff that goes around down here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that viral video of Miles Michaelis eating the lizard is just a classic.
It's something.
I mean,
do you have a favorite Miles Michaelis story? He's one of my favorite players, and he just seems like such a character. He seems like an awesome man.
Well, let's see. I'm the back into the. Here's a very fun Miles story. With the first year he was with the Cardinals in 2018. He got elected to the All-Star game. So his wife at the time was very pregnant. She was very close to having their twins. And Miles got on the plane I forget where the Cardinals ended the first half, but got on the plane, flew to Washington, got there, got checked in, got to the hotel, was in the hotel maybe 90 minutes when his phone rang and said, "Nope, babies are coming, time to go." So he had to immediately turn around, grab his bags, run to the airport to get back to Florida, where his wife was giving birth. So Miles Michaelis' first All-Star game, he was at for 90 minutes and did not leave the hotel.
Yeah, Miles had a couple of interesting All-Star appearances. There's that, and also he didn't get to pitch at all in last year's one, which I thought was quite a shame.
Yeah, there was actually, and again, there was a little bitty story from that. I believe it was, I think it was David Bednar was the guy who was involved in this. There had been some discussion about trying to get guys into games, and I think generally the rule with the pitchers at the All-Star game is if it's somebody who's never made an All-Star team, the guys on the staff try to preference, let's get those guys in the game, let them have their moment. And David Bednar had, I believe, had been warmed up early in the game, but then because whoever the pitcher was in the game for the NL was approaching kind of their hard cap. And so Bednar was warming up to come in halfway through an inning in case something needed to get finished. The rule generally also is not to have guys do up and downs so they don't risk injury. So if you get warmed up and you don't come in the game, mostly you're not going to pitch in the game because they want to be very careful to not get guys hurt. But Bednar, who warmed up a little, didn't get all the way hot, but warmed up, didn't go in the game, was not going to be able to pitch. But it was Miles and it was a couple other guys down in the bullpen who really leaned on the staff for the NL. But get this guy in the game. He deserves to pitch. He wants to pitch. It's his first time. And so whatever chance he might have had, he kind of stepped back from to make sure that somebody else had a chance to pitch in that All-Star game. I have a Jimmy Crooks story, believe it or not. Yesterday, Jimmy Crooks was catching a bullpen for Dalton Roach. They were on the mound kind of closest to us, and so we could sort of see really what was going on with them. And Jose Oquendo had been kind of just like lingering around watching the work happen. And Oquendo walks down the sidewalk, and they're on the closest mound to the sidewalk. Oquendo walks down the sidewalk and walks up and asks Crooks, what number pitch Roach just threw? Like how many has it been? And Crooks says, I don't know. He didn't ask me to count. And Oquendo says, it's 9. Always count in case he asks. And so it was a really cool, just like a really small little lesson, right? Like it's spring training. This guy's throwing a bullpen. Count the number of pitches he's thrown, because if he does ask you, you don't want to go, yeah, I don't know, something like 12. You want to have the answer. And whether Oquendo knew that was a thing that Jimmy needed a reminder of, or maybe he just had a suspicion, it was interesting to see him sort of spot it and get on it and correct it in a big hurry like that.